Welcome, first graders. I'm going to give you a lesson about time, and we are going to make a clock. So you can see how my little clock is here. I even made it so it would have a little bird that could be, mine's a cuckoo duck, not a cuckoo bird. But I have little doors up here. I've made it so it's three-dimensional. You can see we're going to be doing some folding. And I've got a pendulum, and I've got weights. That's how an old-fashioned clock would be. And I even have a little mouse, and if we all know Hickory Dickory Dock, the mouse ran up the clock. The clock struck 1, and the mouse ran down. Only I have 3 o'clock on this clock. And that's the Hickory Dickory Dock, the old nursery rhyme. If you don't have a piece of paper that's 12 by 8, 12 by 18, 12 by 16. You can do this with your computer paper. It'll be a little softer. This is a regular paper. And then you'll be making a clock about this size. So this clock is what it's going to look like, even in the big size. But you can make these tiny clocks like this. So this one I haven't decorated yet. Before I glue them together, I do all my decorating. So right now, this one I would be doing all the details with it flat, so you can see what I did on this one, but I did all my decorating before I glued the back 2 pieces together like this. So that's how when it goes together. And then you can actually, I took this on my windowsill and put it in between. I have a double hung windows, and it actually sat there and looked really, really cute for this big size one. So what I'm doing is I'm going to show you on the big piece of paper. The little piece is exactly the same thing. I'm going to fold the paper in half, matching my corners like we always talk about, so that it's going to go together straight. So I match my corners, and then I bring my hands back and I make a crease. So I'm just doing that. I'm going to draw only on one side. So I'm going to, you can see here what I've done is, here's my big piece of paper. I have it folded in half. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a pencil and I'm going to draw a curve for the top. I'm going to come up here at the top. Here's my fold. Make sure we're on the fold. And I'm going to just make a curve coming down. I'm going to make another curve. And then I'm going to come over. And then down here, I'm going to do the bottom part of the clock. I'm just going to come straight across. I'm going to come straight down. And then I'm going to make a half circle. And right next to it, I'm going to put the weights, the little pieces that would be the little weights. And you can almost do it almost a little heart shape coming from that. So right now, when you look at this, you can see I have, this is going to be on the fold. This is going to be on the fold. I'm not cutting anything there. I'm not cutting anything there. I'm going to put 2 little slits for my door, for my bird to come out with. So that I'm going to cut. And then when I come down here, you can see you can take, if you want, if you have something, a plate, something half round, I'm just going to put it on my clock face. This is going to be my clock face. And I'm going to just draw around that. And then I'm going to put 2 slits. That's where I'm going to cut to. And so right now, without any designs on it, I'd be ready to cut. And I am going to cut before I decorate, because that way you'll be able to open it up and do the back. So at this point, I'm cutting around here, the back, all the little curves. I cut down here. Keeping those connected. I'm not cutting them off. If you do cut them off, don't worry about it. You can just glue them back on. But if you don't want to have to do that extra gluing, just leave them on as you cut them. So as you cut, you're doing your pieces. If you're at home when you go to use your markers or your crayons, you can work on top of a piece of newspaper, a blank sheet of something that won't get your thing. So you can see here, now when I open this up, you can see my shape. I'm going to come back. I'm keeping it folded. I'm going to come back now. I'm going to cut where those two slits are. I'm on that fold. I'm going to cut the clock face just to the line that I drew, and then I'm going to do here, and then I'm going to come over to this one and do the same thing. I'm not cutting my circle off the paper. I'm going to do a little folding. So now, when I open it up, I can tell where my clock face is going to be. I can tell where my other sides are going to be. So at this point, you're going to be taking your marker. I'm going to put a little dot in the center. You can decide I'm going to put my numbers for my clock face. So I'm going to start off with my first 3. So now I have, and then I fill in between. So what I did here, you look, then I came back and then I added, that kind of puts you in the right spots for your numbers. Then I come back and I go 1 and 2 between the 3, 4 and 5 to the 6, 7 and 8, and then 10 and 11. That puts my numbers going around the clock face in the right place. I collect clock faces too, among other things. So I brought in a little French clock face that's over 100 years old, and they got very fancy on their enamel work and scroll work in there and made very pretty letters. So you can make your letters as fancy as you want. So this one has the holes for where they'd wind the clock, and this is where the hands would come out. So at this point, when you're looking at your clock face, you can decide now what time you're going to have. The longer hand is the minute hand, and you can fill that in. You can do it in a color, and then you can decide what time it is. Let's see, I've got 1 o'clock here. I think I've got 3 o'clock on that one. Let's put this one at 4 o'clock, and I'm going to make that one a little shorter and fatter, so you can see what I'm doing here on that. So that's going to be my hour and my minute hand. No digital on this clock face. We want to have it look a little more old-fashioned for this kind of clock. So I've got my numbers there. What I do at this stage, you're going to be doing all your decorating. So at this stage, you can decorate your clock face any way you like. You can come and make bands of colors if you want, with like just straight bands across, and change the color below the clock face. You can come around and mimic the shape of the clock. You can come and use any colors that you get. I know you have markers now. You can come and you can be adding all different kinds of designs coming around. You can fill in with different little patterns. You can put hearts, you can put dots. You can see here I come down my clock, and I'm going to maybe put this one in blue. Then I can decide what color my pendulum's going to be. It doesn't have to be a brass one. We can get colorful. And I can come around and I can decorate my clock face any way I want as I'm filling them in. My same thing with my little weights here on this. You can see we have all these fun things. I can come back with colors on my hands and on my clock face. It's kind of fun too. As you do this, you can keep decorating and adding whatever you want in your design. So that one's really dry. So you can see that's up to you on your clock decoration, but you're going to do all the decorating before you fold it. So here up on my doors, I've got a cut right in the middle there, and I can decide. I like to color in the doors so that when here's when they're closed, and then here's when it's open. I've got to fold it back, and I'm going to color in the other side too. So you can take your time a little more than I'm doing right here for demonstration. So then I've got my little doors that'll open and close. So at this stage, and I have it all decorated, you're going to spend more time than I just did for this. I'm going to come back and I'm going to fold that back piece where the right where my curve ends at the top of the clock. Then I'm going to come back and I'm going to fold another little piece. So at this point it would do this shape. So if I just did one fold, it would do a clock face like this. This part here, I'm going to show you how we can bend it out and make a different thing. I'm going to kind of pinch my fingers around there. So if I wanted to make a triangular shaped clock, I could just do that. But if I do one extra more fold to make the side of the clock, it doesn't have to be very deep. I'm just going to come to here. Now I have an edge on both sides. See my edge? Now I've made a box. And then I just glue this one to this one. Now my clock, I can actually bend this in a little bit to give it, you see how it, instead of just being a flat front, I can actually make my clock face kind of poke either inside or outside. Kind of just gives it another just special little more three-dimensional look for it. And then adding my bird, remember you've got all this extra paper you cut off. All you're going to do is I made him a very simple little chick. So I just made that half curve. I gave him a little bit of a head, and I gave him a beak. I gave him some feet, and I didn't even cut that out completely. I did this one in the marker. So if you do your bird and color them in what color you want, the same thing with the mouse. So when I made a mouse, I just did that very simple little mouse. Gave him a little thing, gave him some little ears, a little eye, and a little tail. And when I cut it out, I didn't try to cut a line. And then you can decide what color you want your mouse. I made this one a pink mouse coming up. And then I made my bird yellow and orange. I'm going to cut one other piece off, that one of my extra pieces. You can make it, this one I made about that long. Remember our fan folding we've done before, back and forth. That's so the bird will pop out of the clock. So I'm just going back and forth, and then when I would cut my bird out, I'm gluing it to one side, and I'm gluing the other side at the back of the clock face, right inside there. So if you look right there, that's where it's going to go inside. So then that's all you have to do to have a wonderful timing device that you've just made. And you're going to add your little mouse going up the clock and your little bird coming out of the face of the clock too. Well, have fun with this. I think you guys are going to enjoy this. This is going to keep you a little busier. So I think you'll have fun with making a clock. And again, same exact rules for how we made the bigger one on making the one that's just this size of paper. So it does work. Making a clock with this size, you can see how it fits in. I used it lengthwise, the long side, because you want to give enough room. That's the same thing I did on this one. You want to give yourself the length of the paper because you want to be able to put your pendulum in and make your little clock face. Have a lot of fun with this one too.